What is up, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Marz Pod. I am your host, Nathan Marz. I'm joined, as always, by Brandon Eckel. And today we have NBA awards picks, and we are going to be going through our playoff predictions as well. We're not going to do all NBA teams today. We might do that another time, but right now we're doing our awards. We added on a few, like we have the main awards, then added on a few at the end. And then as I said, we'll go through the Western Conference playoffs, Eastern Conference playoffs, and just our overall predictions for each series. And so let's get into it. As far as awards, we're going to start with MVP, which I don't think is very difficult. I'll start off. I have Nikola Jokic. I think the finalists got announced. It's Jokic, Embiid, and Curry are the finalists. But Jokic leads in a ton of the advanced stats, and he's averaging 26, 11, and 8, 60% effective field goal percentage, which is just awesome efficiency. And the one sort of argument against Jokic was like before the Nuggets were I think they were towards the end of the standings, like seventh, and they went 30 and 10 over the last 40 games, and Jamal Murray even missed 22 of those games. So Jokic just has carried them to they're now the 3 seed in the West. So there's really no argument against that, I don't think. So do you have Jokic as well, or are you going somewhere else?
Yes, I do. And especially with, like you said, the injury to Jamal Murray, and Jokic has been able to carry him to third seed in the West after a tough start to the year. Like you said, they're like borderline playoffs for probably a third of the year to start or so.
Yeah, I think they were 17 and 15 after like 32 games. And that was like the one argument. But I mean, Jokic to me has just been the MVP for a while. It's kind of it's been a boring race this year, which it just is that way sometimes. And, the media is going to try to stir stuff up and make, Steph the leading candidate or whatever. But it's Jokic. Like, let's not overthink it. All right. Next up, we got Defensive Player of the Year. I'll let you start on this one.
I know there's been kind of talk about this one going back and forth with Gobert and Draymond Green. Neither are my favorite players in the world, but I have Rudy Gobert. Obviously really high up in defensive ratings. I think he's got like 2.7 blocks a game, which is really good, but for his standards, like that's damn near normal. And leading a really good, obviously the number 1 team in the West with a really good defense this year, the Jazz.
Yeah, I have Gobert as well. And this wasn't that difficult to me. I think, again, you look at the impact metrics and all the advanced stuff, like Gobert is just one of the most impactful defenders, not only right now, but of all time. Like he really does. And you watch games and he scares people away from the rim because he just is that presence down low. Now, it is funny, like, and I'm not the biggest fan of Gobert either at all. Like I'm not a Gobert guy, but someone, I think it was my guy Junes on Twitter today, he tweeted, like, it's going to be weird that Gobert is now going to be a 3-time defensive player of the year, I think. And he's still going to be a guy that like gets targeted on defense and like because it's like he's just not the type of player that like stays. He's fine as a perimeter defender, like he's gotten better and stuff, but it's just like you still like you'll target him sometimes on the perimeter and like try to get him into switches and stuff, and it's just like he's that like whereas Giannis is more of the all around like defensive player, but Gobert is just so good at what he does. But no disrespect to him, it's just funny that he's kind of that type of defensive player of the year where he's really good at one thing, but he's not the best overall, like all around defensive player. But there was kind of that argument with like Anthony Davis last year with people saying he should have won it over Giannis, but that was dumb because Giannis is more versatile than Gobert. Anyways, let's move on. Coach of the year. This one already has been given out to Monty Williams, but we're going to go based on what we would have voted for if we had a vote. I'll start on this one. I was going to give it to Quinn Snyder because Jazz number 1 team in the entire league, and without really a superstar player, like they just have a ton of solid guys that just gel and play really good basketball, and I think that's just a result of good coaching. And they're the only team that's top 5 in both offensive and defensive efficiency, which again, to me, that when you can get it on both ends of the court out of your players, that's a sign of good coaching to me. So I'm giving it to Snyder if I had a vote. But there's so many guys. Monty Williams is well deserving of it. Thibodeau would have been a good selection as well. Like there's a lot of guys deserving, but I voted for Snyder.
Yeah, I hate to stay the same here, but I also have Snyder for the same reasons you said. And I mean, like even obviously Doc Rivers, like leading the Sixers now to the number one team, like in his first season as coach. He's up there. So this, to me, like there's a lot of really good coaches this year that like made their teams better, or
Yeah.
just took them to the next level. But that's obviously what Snyder did, getting them the one seed.
Yeah. All right. Most improved. This one should be pretty easy. Do you have Julius Randle?
Yep.
All right. I think everyone kind of agrees on this one. He really became a star this year. He's averaging like 24, 11, and 6 or something. And the 3-point efficiency is what really stood out to me. Not only that, also the assists. Because he's just taken on a bigger role. He's had the ball in his hands more, so he's gotten. I think he's like doubled his previous assist per game career high. And then his 3-point percentage is 41 this year, which I think it was like 27 last year, and it's all of a sudden up to 41. He went from like a second percentile 3-point shooter to like the 98th percentile. So he literally just flipped it. And even with his role increasing, his efficiency's increased as well. Like it's not like he's becoming efficient. So for sure, he's been awesome this year. He's probably a top 10 player this season, just looking at this year only. So
Yeah.
I don't think that was very difficult.
Yeah,
And
he had
then
obviously a really good year, like you said, as far as efficiencies and how well he shot. The one thing is like, I mean, playing for Thibodeau, he's playing like 38 minutes a night, and he's the main guy, so they're always feeding him.
Yeah.
Not to mention he was, I think, maybe not top 5. He was top 10 pick for sure, maybe like 7 or 8th.
Yeah, he was. I think it was 6. I want to say.
Okay. So, I mean, like, a guy like that, it's like, sometimes you look at guys, like, later on that maybe are, like, late bloomers in their second, third, fourth year or something, but even so, he had his role open up, bigger role, and he stepped up, so.
All right, rookie of the year. I feel like this is kind of an unpopular pick. I'm going with Anthony Edwards. I know it's between him and LaMelo. And the issue, I think LaMelo's been better overall when he's been on the court this year, but LaMelo missed 21 games out of 72. That's almost 30%. And so like that, and Anthony Edwards played every single game. Like he played all 72. That to me is like to play 20 more games, it's a pretty big difference to me. And his efficiency hasn't been great this year, but it got better towards the end of the year. I mean, to close out the year in his final 9 games, 27, 6, and 5 on 62% effective field goal percentage. So like he was playing out of his mind and looking like a future stud and scored double figures in each of his last 40 games. So he just consistently put up good numbers. And I mean, he had a pretty solid role for a rookie, given that team was pretty bad. But still, I mean, it's hard to put up 10 plus points every single night as a rookie. And so, yeah, I think he averaged like 19 per game. And LaMelo, I think, was at 17 or something. And obviously, LaMelo's better passing and everything. The main thing just to me is that LaMelo missed games.
I went with LaMelo. I'm a LaMelo guy, as you probably kind of know. But I definitely agree. Like he missed a big chunk of the year. It was surprising that he came back because he was supposed to be out for the season with that wrist surgery.
Yeah.
But just so impactful when he was in there. And I honestly, like, probably is one of the main reasons that they were in the playoff picture. Like once he started getting like they put him in the starting lineup, stuff like that. Like he had a role to start the year. Don't get me wrong. Like he was a number 3 pick. But once they just started gelling and he was finding guys, there's like a few week stretch where it was like they were a pretty scary team. Like with him, Rozier, Graham was playing good. But I wouldn't be surprised if Edwards got it playing the whole year, like you said, and Halliburton too.
Oh, I was gonna say honorable mention to Halliburton
because
he's awesome. Yeah, I love Halliburton, but and yeah, I'm not gonna be mad either way. If LaMelo gets out, I'm not gonna be like this is ridiculous. It's just I'll give it to Edwards, but LaMelo's been fantastic too. All right, 6th man of the year. I'll let you go first on this one.
This is one where I kind of think it should be chalky, but you can make some cases for other guys. I got Jordan Clarkson. Obviously, just a terrific scorer, number 1 team in the West. Very important to that offense.
I have Clarkson as well. The one guy that like other people have is Joe Ingles, but the problem to me is Ingles started 30 games out of 67. Like he started almost half the time. I think Clarkson only started once. To me, when you're starting half the time, are you really a 6th man? Like I don't know. So I'm just like I think Ingles has been slightly better overall than Clarkson just for that team, but I don't think he can win the 6th man because he started 30 games. Clarkson was nearly an all-star. He averaged 18, so I'm giving it to Clarkson just because I don't think Ingles should be really in the running for it.
No, I agree. I mean, when I think Joe Ingles, I think of him, starting as the 3 or the 4 for them,
Yeah.
so.
All right, that's the main awards. Now we have our few ones that we added on. Flopper of the year.
Yeah.
This one, I think James Harden, or no, Marcus Smart won it last year, I think, for us. And this year, I'm going with LeBron James. Flop artist. We saw it last night too. Not really a flop, but just over dramatic, selling everything. And he's had a couple bad flops this year. So LeBron is my flopper of the year. Who is yours?
I'm gonna have to top you there, especially after last night with well, this isn't really a flop, but as we were talking before, kind of the whole 3-rim incident. He's always got to make it known when something happens to him. He can
Yeah.
never just go out there and play. It's always, oh, this happened. So now if something happens, like after his ankle injury, I'm not 100%. He's
Yeah.
already looking for reasons, for people to be talking. Oh, LeBron dropped 30 points and his ankle isn't 100%. Like, spend $1 million in the offseason to train. Don't act like, this is the worst thing ever for you.
Yeah, and I saw a tweet that said like MJ and these other guys would try to, and MJ and Kobe would try to convince people that they weren't hurt when they were. LeBron will try to convince people that he is hurt when he's not.
Yeah.
So yeah. All right, most disappointing team. I'll go first in this one. I have Toronto as my most disappointing team. They finished 27-45, 12th in the East, and like they didn't have any huge injuries. Like I know people missed time, but it was like their best players did play for like at least a good chunk of the year. It just did not work out this year, and so they're for sure my most disappointing team. Other teams that I had consideration for Celtics, but they were never healthy, so it's hard for me to really like blame them for that. And the Bulls also because they made that move for Vucevic and ended up missing the playoffs. And now they're kind of stuck in that middle range of not having a great pick and not being in the playoffs. So
Yeah, all 3 of those teams up there. Obviously, Raptors, I would probably say, but I'm going to go different. I'm going to say the Pacers. They finished 4 games above 500, which if you had told me they were going to, above or below 500 coming into the year, I would have said easily they're above 500. And they're another team that just didn't really seem like they took that next step like Sabonis did, but, Brogdon being hurt once in a while.
Yeah.
Being kind of mediocre because he's too isolation heavy. Miles Turner had a pretty good year, and then he's been hurt a little bit. But it didn't gel with their coach, I know. And I'm trying to think who the other guy. Oh, and then they got Karis LeVert, who I know was out for a little bit, but then he came in and was dropping like 20 a game, and still wasn't really making a difference. So to me, they were very disappointing. Obviously, they got eliminated tonight. I mean, not even a top 8 team in the East.
Yeah, I can get behind that. All right, most surprising team. So positively surprising. I have the Knicks as my most surprising team, which I think is a pretty common pick. They were not, they weren't expected to even make the playoffs, and they're the 4 seed. And other surprising teams. I mean, the Jazz were surprising, and people expected them to be good, but not this good. The Suns, even the Sixers were not really expected to be the number 1 seed, and they were the number 1 seed for almost the whole year. So, couple surprising teams, but I think the Knicks are certainly the most deserving team.
Yeah, I would say Knicks as well. My second would definitely be the Jazz, just for the fact of how good they were all year. Both sides of the ball, like you said, number 1 team in the West. Like they've been good, but as we've kind of talked about, they really took that next step this year, and we're just good all year. So in that ends, I'd say, kind of surprising, but
yeah. All right, last award before we move on to our playoff picks, and it is clutchest player. I'm going with Dame still. He still had a ton of clutch moments this year, and I mean, looking at some stats, he had 20. Like they count these like it's called clutch squared. So like shots that are like there's like clutch shots, and then there's clutch squared shots which are like even more important, like shots that are absolutely crucial to the game outcome. He had 20 of those this year, and shot 65% effective field goal percentage on them, which is among the best in the NBA. Like when the game's on the line, I'm trusting Dame. I still think he's the clutchest player in the league.
Yeah, it's hard to argue with that. I guess if I want to go a little different, I'd maybe throw Curry up there, especially after that I mean, that shot going in half yesterday, I know, like, it didn't really matter all that much, like, it just before halftime, but he hit, deep three after deep three. Can't say I'm surprised because we've seen him do it time and time again, but just continues to amaze.
I
So,
freaking love Steph.
yeah, I feel like this year more than anything because, like, we're always kind of against the Warriors because of just how annoying they were with how
Yeah.
good they were. This year, it's like it's almost fun because it's pretty much just him going
Yeah.
out there, putting him on his back.
Yeah. And if there was a most entertaining player award, I think he would definitely win that. I've always said he's my favorite player to watch. Like, I love watching Giannis. Giannis is second, but like Curry just hitting threes is just something else. All right. So now we are going to get into our playoff picks. Pull it up here. All right. So in the West, to start out, we have the 1 seed Jazz. Let me change this because we know this is the Wizards now. But in the West, we have the 1 seed Jazz against either the Warriors or the Grizzlies, depending on who wins tomorrow. I'm going to pick the Warriors to win that, so I'm guessing this is Jazz Warriors. The Jazz, the only team, as I said before, top 5 in both offensive and defensive efficiency, been number 1 in the league for pretty much the whole year, and I think they're just too deep for the Warriors. Who Steph can only take them so far. I think he can win them a game, maybe 2, but I'm going to go Jazz in 5 here.
Okay. I'm gonna go Jazz in 6 because I think the Warriors, even against that Utah defense, gonna find a couple games where they find a way to win. But these are some really good playoff matchups in the West. Like equally.
Oh yeah, so many good teams in the West. All right, 4 seed Clippers, 5th seed Mavs. This is a rematch of last year's playoff game in which the Clippers won in 6. The Clippers have the second best net rating in the league, only to the Jazz, and they're another team. They're top 10 in offensive and defensive efficiency, so they're very balanced. And with Kawhi and PG playing this year together, they've been really, really good. Mavs once again have a really good offense, ton of shooters around Luka, but to me, I think the Clippers defense can hold down that offense enough, and they'll be able to score still with Kawhi and Paul George. So I'm going Clippers in 6. The Mavs can win a couple games, but I don't think they win this series.
I'm gonna go with my guy Luka and say Mavs in 7.
Wow, that's surprising.
Yeah, Clippers have been one of the teams where it's like they've almost kind of gone under the radar because like they're really good when those guys are on the court. Obviously, they're going to be on the court in the playoffs, but they were bad when they didn't have both of them. So it's like if the Mavs can kind of limit one of these guys in each, a few games here, a few games there, and you go off on offense, watch out, man. Luka trying to get past the first round.
And you never know what you're getting out of playoff Paul George. So
no, you don't.
All right, 3 seed Nuggets, 6 seed Blazers. The Nuggets close out. Both these teams closed out the year very strong. As I said, Nuggets won 30 of their final 40, even with missing Jamal Murray for a lot of those. Blazers won 10 of the last 12, and they have the best net rating in the league over the past basically month-ish. Lillard, McCollum, Nurkic are all healthy now. The Blazers are playing well, and it's Dame, and without Jamal Murray, I don't know really how much I trust the Nuggets. I know they've been playing well. Jokic is the MVP, but I got feeling Blazers in 7.
Good pick. I'm gonna ditto that. I was debating 6 or 7, but I'm also going the Blazers. I don't think the Nuggets can match up as well. I think they can limit Jokic by throwing, Cantor or Cantor. I know he's not a great defender, but he's a big body at least.
Yeah.
And Nurkic, and those guards. It's gonna be tough to stop. So.
All right, and then second seeded, this is going to be a really good matchup. Second seeded Suns, 7th seeded Lakers. Suns, another balanced team, top 10 in both offensive and defensive efficiency. They got, CP3, Booker, Crowder, Bridges, Ayton. Lakers have had their injuries and with LeBron and AD and whatever, and I don't know, there's been times they haven't really looked the same. Even like the first half yesterday, they just looked kind of disinterested and they just didn't look the same. They didn't look like LeBron and AD.
Yeah.
I've been a believer in the Suns all year, and I think they get it done. I'm picking them. I'm gonna pick them in. I'm gonna pick them in 6. I feel like if it goes to 7, it's hard for me to bet against LeBron and AD. So I'm gonna pick them in 6.
Okay, I'm going to go Lakers in 7, but I hope the Suns win. This is going to be very tough for the Lakers. And like you said, they do not look the same. I think they're going to be really worn out, especially if this goes to 7. But got to go LeBron for the first, getting past the first round. But hey,
Yeah.
I hope the Suns take it.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked at all if the Lakers won in 5 or 6 either. I mean, it's LeBron and AD, but something about them does just look a little bit off. But
Yeah.
every time we think that LeBron is starting to, decline a little bit, he shows us that he isn't. So we'll see what happens. But okay, Western Conference semis, so the second round. We got who do we have? So I have Jazz Clippers, you have Jazz Mavs. And for that, I have the Clippers beating the Jazz in 7 games because I don't really know. This can go either way. As I said, the Clippers I've been a Clippers guy this year, and again, they're both of these teams kind of flying under the radar. I like both of them, and I'll take the Clippers because of the stars, and I think Kawhi and Paul George I think having stars in the playoffs, especially in like a game 7, they'll get it done over the Jazz, who just don't have like Mitchell and Gobert, great players, and they have all these very good players, but I don't know, having a star, it has that advantage. So I'm taking the Clippers.
All right. Well, obviously, I got the Jazz versus the Mavs. I think in this matchup, the Jazz are just going to overwhelm the Mavs. So I'm going to go Jazz in 6 again.
All right, and then my other matchup is Blazers Suns, and I like the Blazers to win that first matchup, but as I said, I'm a believer in the Suns. I am going Suns over Blazers in 5 because I think I like the Blazers against the Nuggets because I'm not a huge believer in the Nuggets, but I'm a believer in the Suns, so I'm going Suns in 5.
I really want to go Portland here, but I'm going to go Lakers in 6.
All right, so I have Clippers Suns as my Western Conference final. You have Jazz Lakers as your Western Conference final. And I have to go to the NBA Finals, the Suns over the Clippers in 7. Another series that I'm just like it's so tough to me. And this is another one that I'm kind of basing off the previous matchups. Like I think it's a little bit more unlikely based on the Suns do have the Lakers, so like this easily could get busted right away. But the Clippers playing the Mavs and then playing the Jazz and then playing the Suns or the Lakers to get them to the finals. I think it's a harder overall path than the Suns, who if they beat the Lakers, they can just beat either Blazers or Nuggets, and then whoever ends up Clippers or Jazz or whoever. So I'm going. I as I said, believer in the Suns this year. I have them in the NBA Finals over the Clippers in 7 games.
Okay, so I'm going to take – I hate to say it, but I'm going to take the Lakers over the Jazz, and let's say they go to 7.
Yeah, we both have 7-game Western Conference Final Series.
That would be great. And there's a lot of matchups. Like you said, like the Suns could, that series could go either way. I could be screwed right away. You could be screwed right away. And you got to look out for Portland. I wouldn't be surprised if they pulled something off there too. But I have an ultimate plan for the Lakers once we get to it. So,
and then what was I going to say now? Oh yeah, Lakers Jazz would be like if that goes to 7, I would definitely pick the Lakers because again, just the star power. Like it's hard for me to trust a team like the Jazz that just doesn't have that star. I picked the Suns over the Clippers and they don't have that like star power either. But I'm a little bit more sold on the Suns than the Jazz for whatever reason this year. I don't know why. I believe in the Suns.
they're really good.
Exactly. They're deep. They have been really good all year, and the Jazz are deep too. But Suns, they've got shooters, they've got Devin Booker, they've got Ayton, they've got Chris Paul, who's like Chris Paul running the show. Just to me, I got confidence in Chris Paul to get things done. So, all right, we move on. So I have Suns in the finals. You have Lakers in the finals. We now move on to the East. And Sixers Wizards. This one, not much to really talk about here for me. Um, I'm picking the Sixers in 5. They're a really good defensive team. They have Embiid, the MVP candidate, Tobias, the kind of number 2-ish, and then Simmons, who's really good defensively and a good distributor. Just they have their little big 3 there, and then other guys stepping up off the bench: Seth Curry, Shake Milton, like a bunch of good guys. So I like the Sixers in 5.
I'm gonna say Sixers in 5 as well. I was debating a sweep, but when you got Bradley Beal, and even
Yeah.
though Westbrook's so on and off, game in and game out, um, it's tough. But I don't see the Wizards putting this to any more than 6. But
Yeah, any guys that can just fill up the stat sheet like that, like I'll give them a chance in the game, just going off. Beal scores 50 or something. So Sixers in 5 there. Knicks Hawks. This will be a good series to me. Knicks are 4th in the league defensively, and as we said, been a really good surprise this year. Julius Randle and RJ Barrett have improved a lot. Quickly has been really good as a rookie. And the Hawks fired their coach in February, and they've been at 27-11 since hiring Nate McMillan. Second best net rating in the league since then. So they've just kind of they were kind of out of the playoff picture a little bit, and just all of a sudden they're the 5 seed.
yeah,
And part of it is Bogdan has stepped up a ton. I just tweeted out the stats. I was looking at it and I was like, holy crap. Like I knew he was playing better as of late, but he is like the last since early April, this is about I think 20-ish games, 22 games. He's averaging 22 points on 50% from 3, 9 attempts, 9 threes per game.
oh
So
my God.
9 threes per game and he's shooting 50% on threes. Like that's unheard of.
Yeah,
That's better than even Steph Curry. Like that's just it's ridiculous. And so him stepping up and Trae Young kind of allowing him to do his thing a little bit more and getting that balance. And they're a pretty deep team. I like I like how they've been playing lately. I'm gonna take and I like the Knicks too. This is gonna be a really good series. I'm taking Hawks in 7.
I'm gonna go. I'll do Hawks in 6. Um, I really like John Collins, as I've said. I think Capella's going to be tough for the Knicks to stop. I don't know, I guess him versus Mitchell Robinson will be a good matchup down low. But the Hawks got Gallinari off the bench. I think they kind of got DeAndre Hunter back now. Lou Will. So they got a lot of potential scorers for that really good Knicks defense.
Yeah. All right. So we both have Sixers Hawks, and then we get to Bucks Heat matchup we've all been waiting for. It is time for some revenge.
Yes.
So Bucks, I mean, people want I know right when this comes out, everyone's the Heat just have their number, they're gonna stop them again. There are reasons to be much more confident in the Bucks this year. Drew is a huge upgrade from Bledsoe. That's the main thing. Just having Drew instead of Bledsoe, because Bledsoe was a huge reason for our losses in both the Toronto series and the Heat series. Having Drew just automatically kind of erases a lot of that. And then no Jay Crowder for the Heat, who was absolutely huge in that series too. He killed us, and he's good on defense too. He was big in building that wall. So not having him is pretty big. The shooting around Giannis has been better this year. I think outside of Giannis, guys are shooting 39% compared to what was 35% other years. We're 5th in 3-point percentage this year compared to being in 18th. There's a ton of reasons to be more optimistic about the Bucks. This isn't just I think they can just get it done this time. No, there are actual things to look at and say they're doing this better. They're doing this better. Budenholzer, he's been better, more willing to adjust. They're running more switches. They're using their defensive versatility to try stuff out, and we'll see how it all works out. But I really do believe that they get it done. I have Bucks in 5.
I'm for the sake of the revenge series, I'm going to do what I have to and say Bucks in 6.
That's right, baby. I would love for. Hey, I'd love it. I just want to see us win a series in 6.
It'd be very fitting. Yeah, and just kind of going off what you were saying. I mean, especially with last year when you have Bledsoe, it's if Middleton has those off games, which he has, that's just what you have to live with. He can be so good, but he's going to have games where he's just not hitting his shots. That's what happens with shooters. and Steph Curry. Like now you have a actual reliable second option, Drew Holiday, that can go out and get you 20, 25, 30 points and step up, unlike Bledsoe, who it's like teams didn't even have to go out there and guard him.
Yeah.
So it just people don't understand how big of a difference he makes, like you said.
Yeah, and he's been even better defensively than Bledsoe, and Bledsoe was great defensively, but the main thing has been offense, like having that third ball handler that if they build the wall and somehow can stop Giannis, which I don't think they can. I don't think they're going to be as effective doing it. They can still try and they can do a decent job of it, but then you're not forced to just completely rely on Middleton. You have Middleton and you have Drew. It's a huge difference. And yeah, and I mean, the Heat are playing well. This isn't me like saying the Heat are, I do think they were kind of a fluke last year. They're playing better now. I think I have us in 5, but I think they're hard fought games. I'm not saying we're going to blow them out. I trust us to get things done this year. I think they're going to be ready. We now move on. Nets, Celtics. Celtics are without Jaylen Brown for the rest of the year, and they've just, they've been one of the more disappointing teams because of all those injuries. But Tatum has really stepped up, averaging 33 points over his last 10 games, and so a ton of talent in this matchup. You got Kemba, Tatum, Kyrie, KD, James Harden, all those guys. But to me, the Nets are just too much. I have Nets in 5.
I'm going to go Nets in 5 as well. I think this is probably most likely or second most likely with the Sixers series for a sweep. But just, with how good Tatum's been, and it's still a good coach team with Brad Stevens. But, yeah, Celtics have just not been what they have been this year.
All right, so we both have Sixers Hawks in the second round. I'm taking Sixers in 6 here. As I said, I like the Hawks. I think, if Bogan and Trae Young and those guys come to play, like they'll be able to win a couple games, make this a series. But to me, the Sixers have been really good this year, and even being the 1 seed, they've kind of flown under the radar. It's mostly just been talking about the Nets, so they've been able to kind of fly under the radar there. And so I'm taking Sixers in 6.
I'm going to say the same thing. That Hawks are going to give them trouble if this is the matchup we see.
And then we get to the Bucks Nets. Man, this is I've been back and forth on this all year of like what can we beat the Nets? Will we beat the Nets? And I 100% think we can. There's no doubt in my mind. Like it's not like this. Oh, we have to play absolutely perfect, and there's just like I'll give it a 1% chance. Like no, I think there is a solid chance that we beat the Nets, and that's really all you can ask for. Is like going up against 3 future Hall of Famers. You can only ask to have a decent chance to win. And we do. We've put together a really good team. We've had a really good season. We've got our stud. We've got our number 2. We've got our number 3. Like, you have guys. You've got the defensive matchups. You've done whatever you need to do to at least give yourself a good shot. As my prediction, I'm picking Nets in 7. I think I'm part of it is I just don't want to pick the Bucks because I feel like I'm being too much of a homer. But I also just if I had to put money on it, I would pick the Nets over the Bucks because I just think the talent of that team, if they're all healthy, will be a little bit too much. So I'll pick the Nets in 7. But it's not me saying the Bucks have no chance.
Yeah, obviously I'm in the same position as you are here. However, I'm going Bucks over Nets in 7. Because we have years under our belt now being here. Giannis knows what it feels like to continuously lose in the playoffs. Yes, Holiday's, the new addition, but this is the Nets' first time running out, this team like this, and these 3 guys, as we know, haven't played all that much together. If their defense plays the way it has, the Nets just not hold up on defense, we can win the series. So that'll be by far probably the most entertaining series.
And really the keys will be like defensively, like make things as difficult as possible on, their 3 stars. Just as difficult as you can on Kyrie, as difficult as you can on KD, as difficult as you can on Harden. And if they make a ton of tough shots, you live with it. Offensively, Giannis is gonna have to dominate because nobody can guard Giannis. Like I think it's a series that Giannis will average like 30. He'll play really, really well. It's just a matter of can other guys step up because they're not gonna have an answer for Giannis, but they might be able to contain other guys. But Giannis has to get his. Middleton has to play well, and Drew obviously has to play well too. Like the top 3 has to play well, and then you send a couple other guys to step up. So I mean, it's going to take a lot. Like everyone's going to have to step up. I don't think you beat the Nets with any of our like top players playing, not really well. Like if Middleton, I highly doubt that if Middleton struggles even a little bit, we're going to beat the Nets. He's going to have to play well. So the margin for error just becomes much smaller, but it's certainly possible. So I really hope we do get that series because it's been awesome in the games we've seen in the regular season. So Eastern Conference Finals, I've got Sixers Nets, you've got Sixers Bucks, and to face the Suns in the NBA Finals, I have the Nets over the Sixers in 6 games.
Okay. Oh, I'm gonna go Bucks over Sixers in 6 games. I also partially feel, the hometown bias for picking them, but I truthfully do. Number one, I'm more scared of the Nets than I am the Sixers, and I feel like we can match up with both of these teams very well. And
Yeah.
like I said, the Nets don't match up very well, like because they don't have the defenders. We have the defenders that can limit their guys. They don't. They haven't been able to stop Giannis. They throw DeAndre Jordan on him, and he drops 35, 40 points.
Or Blake Griffin.
Yeah, or Blake Griffin and Giannis bullies him. So, I mean, as long as we win that series, I have a lot of confidence in us over the Sixers. Joel Embiid, man, he just doesn't have the mentality or the grind. He just
I don't know if he can like play a ton of minutes if he has to. I just don't know. And I mean Simmons, you don't know about him, and Tobias is just whatever. So, and I like the Sixers. I think they have a decent shot at the finals, but excuse me. If I had Bucks Sixers, I would pick Bucks in 6. But yeah, Nets I also have in 6 just because like if it's Nets Sixers, I trust the talent of the Nets to win out. And I've said if it's Nets Bucks in the second round, which it very well probably will be, as long as we get by the Heat, I think whoever wins that series gets to the finals. And I think that'll be kind of the unofficial Eastern Conference Finals to me. Not to completely overlook the Sixers, but I whoever wins it, I think beats the Sixers. So I have Suns Nets NBA Finals. You have Lakers Bucks. Oh, Lakers Bucks, dude. If it's Lakers Bucks, I would be very nervous, man. But Suns Nets for me, I'm taking the Nets to win it all over the Suns in 6 games. Again, Kyrie, KD, Harden. I trust those guys to kind of get it done. And so if I'm betting, if I'm put all my chips on one team, I'll take the Nets and just that talent. Now give me your Bucks Lakers prediction.
As you said with the Eastern Conference Finals, man, I think whoever comes out of us versus the Nets, if that's the series, wins the Eastern Conference Finals. However, I also think they win the finals. Bucks in 7. The Lakers are too tired. They're too worn out. LeBron's getting old. His ankle's not 100%. We finally get our championship.
Could you imagine a Game 7 Bucks Lakers at Fiserv?
Oh my God!
Good Lord, dude!
That place would be wild.
I'm getting excited just thinking about it. If we beat the Lakers, if the Bucks beat the Lakers and LeBron, like if Giannis beats LeBron in a finals, I would be so happy. My life would be made right in that moment. But
Rodgers could leave and you'd be okay.
Oh yeah, I mean, hey, my life is just complete at that point. But so yeah. To recap real quick, I had Western Conference Final, Suns over the Clippers in 7, Eastern Conference Final, Nets over the Sixers in 6, and then the Nets over the Suns in 6 for the NBA Finals. Brandon, I had Lakers over Jazz in 7 for the Western Conference Finals, and Bucks over the Sixers in 6 for the Eastern Conference Finals, and then Bucks over Lakers in 7. So you have the Bucks, I have the Nets. I hope you're right, but we will see what happens. Thank you all for tuning in to this episode. We'll have another one pretty shortly. We'll talk about Bucks playoff stuff that's going on, do some all NBA picks pretty soon. But this was fun, and we will talk to you guys soon. Bucks game 1 is on Saturday. It's an afternoon game. I think it's at 1:00. But man, I cannot wait for NBA playoffs and Bucks playoff basketball.
Same here.
So, hey, we'll talk to you guys later. Thank you all for tuning in, and we'll catch you guys next time.